Students, I welcome you all for today's English class. How are you all doing? Hope you are all doing good. I am very glad to be here to discuss some of the important skills we need to learn to have a good command over English language. Today, we will try to learn how to enhance some of these skills. First, let us have a look at the expected outcomes of today's class. You will be able to learn to use active strategies to listen and read. Identify main ideas from the listening and the reading passages. Read the text with fluency. Understand and use the vocabulary and language patterns. Convey ideas clearly. Students, can you tell me what have I been doing till now? That's correct. I am speaking. What am I doing? I am speaking. And while I am speaking, what you people are doing? Could you please tell me what you people are doing while I am speaking? Exactly, you are listening. You are listening to me. So, our topic for today is about listening. Students, have a look at the slides where we get to know about the importance of listening skills. Importance of listening. Listening is the first and foremost skill that we learn. It is an important component of learning. We spend more time using listening skills than any other kind of skill. Listening requires attention. It has great importance as it helps in grasping what we listen to. It increases one's understanding. As you all know, listening comes first. It comes first even before speaking. So, it is important for us to listen. Why do we listen? We listen to obtain information about a person, place, situation. So, if we want to know about a place or a person, we need to extract the information about that person or a place to understand the nature of a person, a situation. Suppose, if you want to know about the nature of a person, you can understand only when you have some information about that particular person. For enjoyment, listening to stories and music. Usually, we all listen to stories and music for fun and enjoyment. To learn how, what, where about things. Now, let us move on to the different strategies of listening. Listen with complete concentration. Listen actively. Focus on the speaker's tone and expressions. Practice listening. Students, you are all good listeners. You have been listening to me and I think you have understood the importance and strategies of listening skill. Now, I have an audio clip being played. I would like you to listen to it very attentively.
Sir, my daughter is missing since last evening.
Would you please tell me something about the missing girl?
Her name is Vinitha. She is 14. She is in class 9.
Can you describe her?
She is fair. She is very thin.
How tall is she?
About 5 feet 4 inches.
What is the color of her hair?
She has reddish brown hair, cut very short. Her hair is curly.
What was she wearing?
She was in her school uniform.
When was she last seen?
Her friends saw her at the school gate. She was walking towards the bus.
Thank you, madam. We will do our best to find your daughter.
Thank you, sir.
I think you all have been very attentive in listening to the audio. I would like you to listen to the audio again.
Sir, my daughter is missing since last evening.
Would you please tell me something about the missing girl?
Her name is Vinitha. She is 14. She is in class 9.
Can you describe her?
She is fair. She is very thin.
How tall is she?
About 5 feet 4 inches.
What is the color of her hair?
She has reddish brown hair, cut very short. Her hair is curly.
What was she wearing?
She was in her school uniform.
When was she last seen?
Her friend saw her at the school gate. She was walking towards the bus.
Thank you, madam. We will do our best to find your daughter.
Thank you, sir.
How was the audio? Hope you all liked the audio. You have enjoyed the audio. Now, to ensure your understanding of the audio, I would like you to answer these questions. What is the audio about? What is the audio about? The audio is about a conversation between two persons. It's a conversation between two persons. The next question, can you identify the characters? Can you identify the characters? There are 3 characters over here, a policeman, a woman and a missing girl. A policeman, a woman and a missing girl. Now the next question, what is the conversation about? What is the conversation about? The conversation is about a missing girl. The conversation is about a missing girl. Who is missing? Who is missing? A girl is missing. A girl is missing. Next question, who has given the complaint? Who has given the complaint? Her mother has given the complaint. Her mother has given the complaint. Now, what is her name? What is her name? Her name is Vinitha. Her name is Vinitha. How old is she? How old is she? She is 14 years old. She is 14 years old. What is her complexion? What is her complexion? She is fair. She is fair. Where was she last seen? Where was she last seen? She was last seen near the school gate. What was she wearing then? What was she wearing then? She was wearing the school uniform. She was wearing the school uniform. Great students, hope you have listened to the audio very attentively and you have understood the audio clearly. Now, you have come across some important words from the conversation which you have heard. I would like you to make a note of these words. Listen to me carefully and make a note of the words which I say now. Missing, mother, school uniform, wearing, policeman. Now students, can you identify the nouns from the words which have been given? You do this activity of picking up the nouns from these words which have been read out. Students, we will move on to another important skill, reading. What do you do when you are free? Or how do you spend your free time? Maybe some of you may be playing or reading books or watching TV. How do you get to know about the information which is happening across the world? That's good. Either through newspaper or through TV. How many of you have the habit of reading the newspaper? I think you all will be reading the newspaper regularly. If not, please make it a habit of reading the newspaper. Reading is one of the most important skills, and now we are going to know more about reading skill. Reading improves communication skills. It stimulates creativity, educates, motivates and inspires, reduces stress and anxiety. What are the different strategies of reading? Read the passage thoroughly. Use prior knowledge or preview. Predict. Identify the main idea. Visualize. Make inference. Use context clues. Why to read? To comprehend, to improve vocabulary, to enjoy, to improve concentration, to develop imagination and creativity, to get information. Students, you might have the habit of reading books. You may be reading the books which are subject oriented or story books. Every reading passage has some message to convey. As readers, we need to understand it. The following points are to be observed carefully while reading a passage to make a better sense of it. The topic, characters, location, events, sequence of events, timeline, moral or information or message of the passage. Now, I would like to present with a comprehension passage. Let us read the passage and comprehend it. Following is the comprehension passage. My grandmother and I were good friends. My parents left me with her when they went to live in the city, and we were constantly together. She used to wake me up in the morning and get me ready for school. My grandmother and I were good friends. My parents left me with her when they went to live in the city, and we were constantly together. She used to wake me up in the morning and get me ready for school. She said her morning prayers in a monotonous sing-song while she bathed and dressed me in the hope that I would listen and get to know it by heart. I listened because I loved her voice but never bothered to learn it. She said her morning prayers in a monotonous sing-song while she bathed and dressed me in the hope that I would listen and get to know it by heart. I listened because I loved her voice but never bothered to learn it. Then she would fetch my wooden slate, which she had already washed and plastered with the yellow chalk, a tiny earthen ink pot and a reed pen, tie them all in a bundle and hand it to me. Then she would fetch my wooden slate, which she had already washed and plastered with the yellow chalk, a tiny earthen ink pot and a reed pen, tie them all in a bundle and hand it to me. After breakfast of a thick stale chapati with a little butter and sugar spread on it, we went to school. She carried several stale chapatis with her for the village dogs. After breakfast of a thick stale chapati with a little butter and sugar spread on it, we went to school. She carried several stale chapatis with her for the village dogs. My grandmother always went to school with me because the school was attached to the temple. The priest taught us the alphabet and the morning prayer. My grandmother always went to school with me because the school was attached to the temple. The priest taught us the alphabet and the morning prayer. While the children sat in rows on either side of the veranda singing the alphabet or the prayer in a chorus, my grandmother sat inside reading the scriptures. While the children sat in rows on either side of the veranda singing the alphabet or the prayer in a chorus, my grandmother sat inside reading the scriptures. When we both finished, we would walk back together. This time, the village dogs would meet us at the temple door. They followed us to our home, fighting with each other. When we both finished, we would walk back together. This time, the village dogs would meet us at the temple door. They followed us to our home, fighting with each other. Okay, students, now that you have listened to the passage, you might have observed how to read the passage. Can you pick up some of the new words from the passage which you have come across? Constantly, monotonous, bothered, fetch, stale, chorus, scriptures. Now, let us discuss few points which would ensure your understanding of the passage. Why did the grandmother say her morning prayers loudly? Why did the grandmother say her morning prayers loudly? The grandmother told the prayers in the hope that her grandson would listen and get to know it by heart. The grandmother told the morning prayers loudly in the hope that her grandson would listen and get to know it by heart. What was the boy given for breakfast? What was the boy given for breakfast? The boy was given a thick stale chapati with a little butter and sugar spread on it. The boy was given a thick stale chapati with a little butter and sugar spread on it. Now, let us move on to the next question. What does the word fetch mean? What does the word fetch mean? The word fetch means to bring. The word fetch means to bring. Why did the grandmother always accompany the boy to school? Why did the grandmother always accompany the boy to the school? Because the school was attached to the temple. Because the school was attached to the temple. How did the grandmother feed the dogs? How did the grandmother feed the dogs? She fed several stale chapatis to the village dogs. She fed several stale chapatis to the village dogs. Why did the dogs follow them home? Why did the dogs follow them home? The dogs followed them for the stale chapatis. The dogs followed them for the stale chapatis. Now, let us have a look at another passage. Margie even wrote about it that night in her diary. On the page headed 17th May 2157, she wrote, "Today, Tommy found a real book. It was a very old book. Margie's grandfather once said that when he was a little boy, his grandfather told him that there was a time when all stories were printed on paper. They turned the pages, which were yellow and crinkly, and it was awfully funny to read words that stood still instead of moving the way they were supposed to on a screen, you know. And then when they turned back to the page before, it had the same words on it that it had had when they read it the first time." "Gee," said Tommy, "what a waste. When you are thorough with the book, you just throw it away. I guess our television screen must have had 1,000,000 books on it, and it is good for plenty more. I won't throw it away." "Same with mine," said Margie. She was 11 and had not seen as many telebooks as Tommy had. He was 13. She said, "Where did you find it?" "In my house." He pointed without looking because he was busy reading. "In the attic." "What's it about?" "School." Margie was scornful. "School? What's there to write about school? I hate school." Margie always hated school, but now she hated it more than ever. The mechanical teacher had been giving her test after test in geography, and she had been doing worse and worse until her mother had shaken her head sorrowfully and sent for the county inspector. He was a round little man with a red face and a whole box of tools with dials and wires. He smiled at Margie and gave her an apple, then took the teacher apart. Margie had hoped he would not know how to put it together again, but he knew. After an hour or so, there it was again, large and black and ugly, with a big screen on which all the lessons were shown and the questions were asked. To ensure the understanding of the passage, let us discuss a few questions. What is the topic of the passage? What is the topic of the passage? The passage deals with the schools in future. The passage deals with schools in future. Who are the characters? Who are the characters? Margie, Tommy, their mother, and the county inspector. Margie, Tommy, their mother, and the county inspector. Where does the story take place? Where does the story take place? In their house. In their house. How does the story begin? How does the story begin? The story begins with Tommy finding an old book and reading it. The story begins with Tommy finding an old book and reading it. When does the story take place? When does the story take place? The story takes place in 2157. The story takes place in the year 2157. Now students, have you noticed any difference between the passage 1 and the passage 2 which we have dealt with? Yes, there are some differences. If you see the first passage, it is in the first person narrative. That is, we have the words like my and I. The words my and I suggest that it is in the first person narrative, where the speaker is the narrator himself. But whereas in the second passage, we find the words like Margie, her, Tommy, his, that suggests that this is in the third person narrative, where the person other than the narrator is the speaker. Now students, let us do an activity on WH questions. Do you know what WH questions are? The following are the WH questions. You can have a look at them. Who? Who is your best friend? Who is your best friend? When? When is your birthday? When is your birthday? What? What is your father? What is your father? Why? Why are you playing outside? Why are you playing outside? Where? Where do you live? Where do you live? Which? Which bag is yours? Which bag is yours? How? How are you? How are you? These are some of the WH questions. Now students, I am going to give you a simple task. Frame the questions which begin with WH. So you will all frame WH questions now. Children, it's time to take leave now. I hope you will enhance your listening, speaking and reading skills from the points which we have discussed today. Thanks for being with me till now.